Imagine pulling up next to a brand new sports car at a red light. The driver looks over and laughs because you're sitting on what looks like a three-wheeled motorcycle. Then the light turns green and you're gone. Because under you isn't a motorcycle engine. It's a full-size American V8, the same kind of motor that lives in a muscle car, bolted into a machine you steer with handlebars. This is real. It's street legal. It's built by hand in America. And it will leave that sports car staring at your taillights. Stay until the end. The most powerful one will leave you speechless. There are some ideas that could only come from the United States. Other countries build careful little engines and brag about how efficient they are. America looked at a motorcycle, looked at a V8 muscle car engine, and asked a single, beautiful question. What if we put that in this? For most of motorcycle history, that was considered impossible or insane. Of all the motorbikes that have roamed the world's roads, almost all of them have engines with 4 cylinders or fewer. A few brave builders went to 6. But the V8, 8 cylinders, the heart of the American muscle car, was supposed to be far too big, too heavy, too violent to ever ride on the open road. And yet, no other engine configuration is as beloved in America as the V8. For decades, we've loved them in our muscle cars, and that allure extends to pretty much any vehicle you can bolt one into. So a handful of American garages and machine shops decided to stop asking whether it was possible and just build it. The result is one of the wildest classes of street-legal machine on the planet. Here's the first problem the builders had to solve. A V8 engine is enormous and it's heavy. Way too much weight to balance on 2 wheels at a stoplight. The answer was elegant. Add a third wheel. The V8 Trike was born. 2 fat tires in the back, 1 up front, a saddle to sit in, handlebars to steer. It looks like a chopper that's been hitting the gym for a decade. And that third wheel does 2 things at once. It carries the massive weight of a car engine, and it lets the machine actually haul. These are touring V8 Trikes with room for 2, built around a 4-link suspension with gas shocks and airbags. A real road-going machine you can load up and ride across the country, not a one-trick stunt bike. So now you've got the stability and carrying capacity of a small car, wrapped around the engine of a muscle car, in the body of a motorcycle. That combination shouldn't be street legal, and yet, in America, it is. Let's be crystal clear about what's actually under these machines, because this is the part people don't believe. This is not a big motorcycle engine. This is not a marketing gimmick. This is a literal, full-displacement, American car V8, the same family of engine you'd find in a Camaro, a Corvette, or a hot rod. Take the most famous production version, the Boss Hoss, built in the United States. The Boss Hoss lineup features 3 different Chevrolet V8 engines, and the numbers are absurd for something on 2 or 3 wheels. The LS1 generates 445 horsepower. The 383-stroker delivers 430 horsepower, and the big 454 small block produces an unbelievable 563 horsepower and 545 pound-feet of torque. Let that sink in. 563 horsepower. That's more power than most supercars make. On a trike. These motorcycles look like they've spent years in the gym. The engine and the gas tank look extremely muscular, and there's a detail that tells you everything. Because of their sheer weight, they actually have a reverse gear. A reverse gear on a motorcycle, like a car, because there is simply too much machine to push backward by hand. So here's the question you're really asking. Is it actually fast? Or does all that weight cancel out all that power? It's fast. Brutally fast. Think about the physics. 500 plus horsepower. A vehicle that weighs a fraction of the car that engine was designed to move. There's almost nothing for all that muscle to fight against. The result is acceleration that pins you to the seat and embarrasses cars costing 5 times as much. And this isn't a new fluke. The very first one proved it more than a century ago. Back in 1907, an American named Glenn Curtiss built a V8 motorcycle, essentially an aircraft engine on 2 wheels. He rode it to 136.7 miles per hour and earned the title of the fastest man in the world. And here's the staggering part. The Curtiss V8 is the only motorcycle to ever hold the outright land speed record, beating every other human-piloted device on the planet at the time. Car drivers only caught up a few years later, and Curtiss held the motorcycle record all the way until 1930. That was over 100 years ago, on primitive sand at the beach. Today's builders have modern engines, modern brakes, and modern tires, and they've taken the idea to a place that defies belief. Because once you accept that a V8 belongs on a bike, the only question left is, how far can you push it? The answer is terrifying. There's a V8 bike built around a 3-liter V8 that puts out 400 horsepower and can go faster than 225 miles per hour. With its aerodynamic bodywork in place and the engine-fed race fuel, the builder claims 480 horsepower and a top speed of over 250 miles per hour. 250 miles per hour. That would put it ahead of the fastest open-wheel race cars on Earth and leave most professional racing motorcycles behind in a straight line. And then there's the artistry. A custom builder in the United States named Maxwell Hazan built a street-legal motorcycle from scratch around a Ferrari 5.8 engine. The hand-built machine makes roughly 400 horsepower. And here's the jaw-dropper. Despite that massive V8, the whole thing weighs only about 590 pounds with all fluids included. Most sport bikes typically cap out around 210 horsepower. These American V8 machines casually double that and wear it like a badge. Here's what makes this story special and very American. These aren't rolling off some giant factory line by the million. They're built, often one at a time, by hand, in small shops, by people obsessed with doing the impossible. One builder, Trikes, hand builds every frame in their fabrication shop in Las Cruces, New Mexico, using precision CNC machined components for exact tolerances. Their machines start north of 249 horsepower, and you can either ride one home turnkey or buy it as a rolling chassis and finish the build yourself. Another shop, V8 Choppers, has been building and selling custom V8 choppers and V8 trikes since 2003. V8 hot rod trikes and V8 road trikes, each one essentially a piece of rolling American sculpture. And it goes deeper than the big shops. One builder describes starting in the early 2000s with a bent, tacked frame and barely any tools, a grinder, a chop saw, and a cheap welder, and dropping a 351 Ford Cleveland engine into his first trike. Because it was part motorcycle and part Ford, he called it a Ford cycle. That's the soul of this entire category. A garage, a welder, a muscle car engine, and the refusal to accept that it can't be done. So what is it like to sit on top of an engine that was designed to move a 2-ton automobile? Owners describe it as nothing else on the road. One longtime rider, someone who'd ridden 2 and 3 wheels for 45 years, put it simply after buying one. It was the most fantastic ride he'd ever had, an experience like no other, between the design, the comfort, the power, and the handling. Picture it. You twist the throttle and you don't hear a buzzy little whine. You hear that deep, chest-rattling V8 rumble, the sound of an American muscle car, except it's directly beneath you, completely exposed, with nothing between you and the sky. There's no roof, no doors, no cabin, just you, handlebars, and 8 cylinders of controlled explosion. It's the muscle car experience stripped down to its raw nerve. All the power, all the sound, all the fury, and none of the metal box around it. Step back and think about what these builders have actually pulled off. They took an engine that engineers spent decades designing to haul a heavy automobile, and they bolted it into a vehicle a fraction of the weight. They solved the balance problem with a third wheel. They solved the weight problem with car-style suspension and even a reverse gear. They made it stop, they made it steer, and they made it street legal. The result is a machine that breaks the rules of 2 completely different worlds at once. To the car world, it's a motorcycle that has no business making that kind of power. To the motorcycle world, it's a car engine that has no business being out in the open air. It belongs to neither. And that's exactly why it's so American. These are the vehicles that get built when a culture decides that too much isn't a warning, it's a goal. So there it is. Real American V8 trikes and bikes, hand-built around genuine muscle car engines, making more horsepower than most supercars, hitting speeds that shame open-wheel race cars, riding on 3 wheels with a reverse gear and the open sky overhead. Now, I want to hear from you. Would you twist the throttle on a 563 horsepower V8 trike? Or is that a little too much machine to trust with your life? And what should we cover next? The wildest one-off custom builds in America, or the engineering that keeps these beasts from flipping at full throttle? Drop it in the comments. If this one made your jaw hit the floor, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what American garages build next. Because when America decides something is impossible, that's usually right before they build it.